Hello, and welcome to Art, Creativity, and Wellbeing. This is the show where we are always working to support you in taking as good care of yourself as you are accustomed to taking care of others. I'm Kay Lockculp. I am a coach, I'm a facilitator, I am a creator, I'm a thru hiker who used to need a wheelchair, and I'm so very excited because today I am here with a person who's been so special to listen to over the years just in my life and creating such a beautiful set and series of things of really beautiful connections. The Nothing Much Happens podcast is one that was where I first got to know you, Kathryn. The first This podcast is another. That is where I feel like I've built the muscle of real positive, good mindfulness. And Stories from the Village of Nothing Much is another. We are going to get to talk about her new book today, which is coming out in July. And I'm so thrilled to welcome you to the show, Kathryn Nicolai. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kay. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, yeah. You were sharing just before we got on that it's been a bit of a whirlwind for you. There's been some
Yes.
traveling and some.
Yeah, I just got back from LA 2 days ago and I was in New York the week before that. So we're starting to work on some promos for the book, but also just taking some meetings. And I had a little Meet Your Heroes tour too. I also got to meet some really fantastic people that my work puts me in the path of. So it's been a really exciting few weeks.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder, I'm curious if it feels like there's something that you could share about what you're enjoying right now. Like what's good for you right now in your
Mm.
life?
That's a big question because I feel like it's a core value of mine to seek out enjoyment every day. So I enjoy a whole lot of stuff. Even in moments when the world is falling apart, I very deliberately and intentionally make time and spend energy on finding stuff to be happy about and excited about. I think one big thing is I started drawing about 3 months ago, and I've never drawn in my whole life. And I have a condition called aphantasia, which means I cannot create any visual imagery. I don't have an inner eye. My internal experience is completely black, no sound, no colors, no shapes or forms. So I've always been totally puzzled by how people draw.
Mm.
And so just I'm just playing, but I am having so much fun and I am drawing every single day and feeling really playful about it. And plus, you get to buy a lot of craft supplies. And if there's something better than that, I don't know what it is. And so like my office right now just has like 50 new designs, drawings, paintings all over the walls. I'm just sticking them up as I make them and just feeling like there's a door that I didn't know was there. And I open it
Wow.
up and there's a whole room full of stuff in there.
And do you draw what you see like with your actual eyes? Or are you drawing what it feels like is coming from your imagination? Like is it a combination?
That's such a good way to say it, what I feel like is coming from my inner eye, because there's some research that shows that people with aphantasia, that likely an image is created or generated somewhere in our brain, but we don't access it. So it's like it's on the screen, but the screen is turned away from us and we can't see it. But it might exist in some place in our brain because I'm just drawing intuitively, but
Mm.
able to draw things that I didn't think I would be able to. And I'm also like taking a couple online courses and just learning some basics. But it is a very sometimes strenuous thing for me to do. I was working on like negative space the other day and looking at something and coming back over here, but the moment I look away, it's gone. So
Mm.
I would sometimes say out loud to myself, the line curves to the right, because as soon as I look away, it's gone. So it is a very interesting experience to have aphantasia and play around with graphic art, but man, I'm just having a blast with it.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's what counts, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I think that there's something present about permission, it feels like. And I mean, just so some of our listeners might remember that I've been an artist only for about 4 years. Well, actually, it's 2026, so maybe five. Um, but when I was a freshman in college, I was enrolled in the School of Fine Art where I went to university. And I was told my second semester freshman year by my figure drawing teacher in front of the class, you are not an artist. You should give this up. And, I did. And I have had an incredible life. Like what I'm doing now is based on what I chose after that, right? But when I turned 50, I was like, you know what, though, who gets to decide if I'm an artist? Maybe it's me that gets to decide. And it was so scary to put pencil to paper, but I loved the feeling of it. And I don't know if this happens for you, but for me, it's a way of being so present that I'm like my thinking brain just shuts off. I'm just not there. I'm instead
In flow
really
state. Yeah.
exactly in that flow state. And that was a permission that I had to give myself. And I'm curious if there were permissions along the way for you, you know?
Yeah, so many things that you just said, Kate, really resonated with my own story. First, just that yesterday on one of my notepads, I wrote or creativity plus permission.
Mm,
Attention plus permission is creativity. Just paying attention to something and giving yourself the permission, that is where creativity blooms. So I agree, like I'm on that same path. And when I started writing, had to give myself permission to call myself a writer. And I had what I sometimes call the reckoning of mediocrity, where I'd wanted to write for so long and had self-doubt and had the stories that we carry around. Sometimes they're from outside sources that we internalize, like your art teacher did to you. And sometimes it's all internal. But I had this moment where I was like, why does it matter if I wouldn't be the best at this? Why does that mean I don't do it?
mhm.
And I sometimes cite this story from when I was like in grade school that like I played flute in fifth grade and I always joke that I was ninth chair flute and there were only five of us. And they were like, move down a little bit further. Um, but I quit because I couldn't be the best.
Mm,
Hopefully as we age, we gain that sort of maturity where I don't have to be the best. Some things I'm really mediocre at, but I enjoy the heck out of them.
mm.
So why does somebody else's label matter? And at a certain point, we're adults. We've got the free will, and we just have to have a little bit of daring to go out and say, I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I'm a creator, because I say I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's interesting too because it feels like uh maybe I'll say it this way. It's like we're these islands of creativity until we meet up with another. And then perhaps what we end up getting to be is like we are ourselves, but we're also linked up in these beautiful, beautiful ways. And
Mm.
that's felt like what I have been receiving, I guess is a good way to say it, from what you create. And I can remember, gosh, I don't remember when this was, but at some point you did this lovely episode about I think you answered people's questions,
Hmm.
so the other person that I'd really love to bring into the conversation is Bob Wittershine because he seems like a really special. But let's put a
Hmm.
pin in that,
Okay.
because that felt like in somewhere in that episode you answer questions around like basically saying what you just said, which is I didn't used to feel like a creator, and
Hmm.
I wonder if you could kind of take us into that journey. In fact,
Hmm.
this is part of the question that I sort of wanted to approach anyway, which is like, how did you get here? You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to answer it from a couple different ways,
Mm,
but I always thought that I wasn't creative. I always thought I'm not a creative person. I always thought I was kind of creativity adjacent. Like all my friends were creators, all my friends were artists and musicians and actors, and my brother's a poet, and I was in theater school and stuff, but I always felt like I don't have this, and I'm kind of jealous. I love this
mm,
so much, but I don't have it, and I just kind of have to accept that about myself. But creativity is a practice. It's not, something you inherit or are born with. I mean, there are the Mozarts of the world, but the rest of us just we have to practice. It's a skill set and risk taking and a level of awareness that can be cultivated.
Mm.
So that's something I've really learned over the years. We just had our 400th episode of Nothing Much Happens. And I really felt nervous that I wasn't going to make it to episode 5 when I started. I was like, I don't know if I have this much to say. And now I'm on my second book and 3 podcasts. So it is, I find that creativity begets more creation. Like it is a wheel that once you start turning in yourself, gains its own momentum. And so that's part of what I've learned along the way and sort of the how I got here of it. I've always told myself bedtime stories. It is probably my earliest memory, maybe being like 4 years old. I grew up on the north end of Flint, Michigan in the 80s, and it was a difficult place to be. And I'm sure there was some part of my small brain that needed safety and was going to build it if it didn't exist, which I feel like is the Flint
Wow.
motto. I've been talking a lot about Flint the last couple weeks, and I'm super proud to be from Flint. But I think that growing up someplace where you felt like you understood that no one was coming to save you, and that if you would like something to exist, you were gonna have to make it yourself. That I understood that from a very young age. So, I would tell myself these bedtime stories, create sort of a soft place to take my mind to feel safe. And I never stopped doing it. I was also a kid with a big imagination. I was just like, I loved the idea of stories. And, so I was like, why isn't everyone doing this? Like just escaping into their thoughts and like making things up. So I did that my whole life. And because of that, I trained myself to be able to sleep, to fall asleep when I chose, to return to sleep if I woke in the middle of the night. And that is sort of a modern superpower. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I spent 20 years as a yoga and meditation teacher full time, owned a studio, was in the studio 5 or 6 days a week. So put in those 10,000 hours and taught a ton through storytelling because I find that people, even when they come to things like yoga of their own volition, they still come with just a little bit of resistance. There's still like a shell you have to get through. And so I found that the more relatable I could make things, the more that I could make things feel like a story rather than
Mm-hmm.
it feeling didactic or from a higher place, but just sort of from the person beside you,
Yeah.
then the easier it was for people to receive and to use. So I feel like I put all of those skills together and developed this concept, which was really just an idea I heard from so many people every day as a yoga teacher who struggled with sleep. And I kept thinking, I know how to do this. How do I
Mm-hmm.
get this from me to you? And I wanted it to be a book, but that is such a difficult thing if you've never been published and you're just a lay person. How do you get to publishing? That's so hard, but podcasting is such a lovely, open, accessible medium.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I bought a microphone in the middle of the night when the idea struck me and called Bob in the morning. And he was like, please don't buy stuff without asking me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, which immediately, well, first of all, just thank you for such an expressive share.
Mm,
When we hear your voice, it is very modulated, I would say. It's very
mhm.
pitched to sleep,
Yeah.
it's pitched to meditation, which is lovely.
Hmm.
Um, I am so enjoying hearing you in an animated sort of like way as well. And my this is such a random thing. My which perhaps there is nothing random. But anyway, my mom-in-law grew up in Flint, Michigan.
Oh, really?
In the gosh, I think probably the 40s and 50s, maybe 60s. Like
Hmm.
that's her home, you know.
She probably knew my folks.
She
It wasn't
probably
that big of a
did.
town.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember when my husband and I were first married, going to, I think it was called like Flint Days or something. There's like a special,
Hmm.
couple days of celebration in Flint, and it's like, wow, you know.
Yeah.
To me, I had never, that was really my sort of first trip to Michigan or that area at all. And
Hmm.
I didn't, it was really interesting to see what it was like, you know. Having been a Canadian and then a New Englander, all my life, it was very similar and very different in ways, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's had a lot of iterations and rebirths and stuff. And, I think a lot of people know it now for the water crisis, but it was already
Yeah.
a very tricky place, a place full of, frankly, a lot of strife and poverty in the 80s because that was the home of General Motors, which then picked up and left. And so almost everybody lost their jobs overnight. So to live, through those years where everyone you knew had nothing.
Yeah.
Um, but people still needed things. I feel like we talk so much about the concept of community now, and obviously the need for community is huge right now. But I grew up in a place where we were keyed into that for a long time. It was stone soup, in our neighborhoods
Yeah.
because that was the way that we were going to survive. So I feel like that theme runs constantly through my stories. The simple theme of lifting your neighbor, of reaching out, of being aware that when you take too much, someone goes without. Just those simple, like community action minded ideas are the web of sort of the ethos of the Village of Nothing Much. So I
Mm.
feel like that obviously it made a big impression on me. It's still there.
Hmm. Oh, that really comes through. Yeah. I hadn't thought of it that way. But it's so true. Okay. I really can we talk a little bit about Bob Wittershine? Like, did you know him
Yes.
before you? I mean, apparently you must have known him
Yes.
before you started. Was he a friend
He
from
was he
life?
was a friend. Yeah, he we had met through a mutual friend, and I knew that he worked in audio engineering, and he worked, working on commercials and stuff like that. And I reached out to him the day after I had the idea, and he very generously said, "Come on into the studio." And he worked in a professional studio and gave me the friends and family discount, which means I didn't pay anything.
Wow.
And he worked for free for 2 years,
Wow.
and the podcast didn't make any money for about four.
Wow.
And probably would have kept working for free because he loves it so much, but I just couldn't allow him to do it anymore. It wasn't okay with it, just wasn't right. But he loves the Village of Nothing Much so much. He is so protective over it, just as much as I am.
Mm.
So I feel like even though almost nobody, like, you wouldn't be able to pick Bob out on the street, I feel like any listener, there's just something about his energy that comes through that people do feel that sort of like avuncular, compassionate, protective energy that comes from him. And that is very true to who he is as a person. He also, because we've known each other long enough, he's very grounded. He
Mm.
keeps me very grounded. So yeah, he's a great person to have on my team. I hope we get to work together forever.
Wow, that is awesome. And I love hearing about the beginning of it, that what came first was an energy of curiosity, creativity, joy, all of that. And it just I think about how these are, I don't know, these are learned. And something that I think about a lot too is how like my thinking brain will be saying one thing, but my body feels something else. And it seems like there was a part of that, or for you to be able to just be like, I've had this idea, boom, I'm doing it. Like you didn't talk yourself out of it, you just did it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of blessed a little bit. My aphantasia plays a role in that. I'm so naturally present
Mm,
because I don't have access to a lot of other things. My memory is affected by my aphantasia. So my sort of functional memory is pretty bad. And and I kind of think that's not so bad. A lot of times people are like, oh my God, I wish I could unsee that. And I
mm,
think I can, and I just did. Um, but it also gives me, I feel like it's easier for me to let go of things.
yeah.
It makes me naturally present. Plus, I had, 25 years on the job of focusing every day on what it means to be present, be in my body, what are sort of the truths of my own self and what am I internalizing? So, I feel like I was ready for that, but I am somebody who goes from concept to execution very quickly. I am not an overthinker.
Mm,
Sometimes I am an underthinker,
mm.
but
Better
but
that, I think,
it,
eh? I
it
mean,
often is because I don't consider the ways it might go wrong. I just sort of go to I think I'm very much first this, then that. I am very much just take the next step,
mm,
and don't get caught up too much in what may be. And it allows me to just keep creating without feeling like I'm editing myself.
yeah,
I just keep going.
yeah. Wow. Um, When, so I would love to sort of, if you cast yourself back to the first episodes or the first seasons, perhaps, of Nothing Much Happens, were there, because what's happened in the time that it's been a thing is that you've been, by which I mean that you have been creating it. Um, some really beloved characters, I guess, have emerged, and I'm curious what that was like to suddenly have these folks, in
Show
your
up.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. It does feel very much like I just discovered them and they were, existed and then developed out of whole cloth. And I just sort of wrote them down that way. But, I realized pretty quickly within the first season or so that I was thinking about all these stories as being existing in the same universe, that they were all interrelated. And I write almost every story from the first person perspective because I want you, the listener, to step into it and think of it as your story, to kind of pull the details around you like a cloak and be like, this is my story. I'm going to settle into it. I just find that that's naturally quite soothing. So, I knew that that would mean that there'd be lots of different kinds of voices and lots of different kinds of narrators. So, and I also just wanted people to be represented in different ways. I wanted there to be stories about single people and married people and older people and students, people who, had cats and dogs or traveled or didn't, just so that people could feel familiarity and representation.
Mm.
So, but I also just really liked creatively the idea of I'm writing about the bookstore today. I wonder if the person who just walked out was the person who narrated the story last week. And that was just sort of so intriguing to me. It was kind of like I had my own like little Christmas village of houses and I could just move the dolls around and be like, now you go over here. Um, and it was so fun and cute to me, which is very important to me that my work be both fun and cute. I am
Mm.
high on whimsy. So,
Hmm.
so then I just started to write more and more. And sometimes I would hear from somebody who would just say, boy, that voice really spoke to me. And I think, oh, let me see if I can tell another story. And then they'd start to gather their own little collective catalog, like we have for Chef or we have for
Mm.
Marmalade and Crumb and their parents and the bookstore keeper. And now a lot of those characters are part of my new book that comes out in July. So we get sort of like a bigger story from each of them.
Wow. Um, you have been for those of us who get the ad-free version, who
Hmm.
get the sort of premium. I'm sure there's a pro way to say ad-free, like that doesn't include the word advertising. I can't think what
We
that.
say ad free too. You're good.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but what the beauty of that, I mean, aside from the fact that there aren't ads, is
Yeah.
which is so it is so. I just want to pause here for a moment because before I did that, those ads were read in your soothing voice. So that was like it was a fine option. It wasn't an interrupt. It was just, but
I'm
but
so
to
glad you noticed that just because I had to fight for that.
did you
That,
really?
oh, very hard. And we lost a lot of money because of that. But, I was like, listen, I will not wake people up. I will not
Yeah.
do it. I am their guardian. And this is a vulnerable moment and they trust me. And I will be like, protecting
Wow.
those people. So I will only do it in my own voice. And it's still true of like the most recent 8 episodes that you'll always hear on the free feed. You'll only ever hear my voice. We've only gone to programmatic ads on the back catalog.
Hmm.
And we're still losing money on that, but I don't care.
Mm.
I want it to serve the purpose and it's too
Yeah.
important. So I always want that utility to be there. So I'm glad that you felt that
Yeah.
level of care was attended to.
I mean, I've stopped listening to other shows because of interrupts
Yeah,
like that. It's like I just can't. Why
it's
are
too
we
much.
here? It's too much.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I did love that, but the beauty of being a subscriber is the bonus episodes, which
I agree.
which I feel like in this year, certainly in the last several months, you've been doing something really fun and it sounds like unique for you. You've expressed on the show, you sometimes you're very beautiful about sharing vulnerability. And so you'll say something like, I hope you're enjoying these. I sure am loving to create them. So just from one listener, I mean, heck yeah, they're awesome.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Uh,
I'm so glad. They're
uh,
really fun to write.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I really was curious. Um, this is a bit of a different it's sort of a departure from how you've written. I was curious about, I'd love to start talking about the book too,
Hmm.
On the Street Where You Live. I cannot
Hmm.
wait until it lands in my ears in July.
Yeah.
But like, how, I'm trying to think, what is my actual question here? So, um, what's it been like? Let's start here. What's it been like to create these new, and actually, could you even explain or share a little bit about what's different with these new ones?
Sure. Like I said, I've written 400 episodes, and I feel like it's not an exaggeration to say that I kind of invented this. Like I kind of created this concept that my work falls into, and that now a lot of other sleep podcasts, fall into, which I'm happy to have colleagues because everybody just needs different voices. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I also kind of had to box myself in a little bit because I need to make sure that I'm not keeping people up, that I'm providing them the right sort of scenarios, the right language, the right delivery, that it's always going to take them to a place that feels calm and soft and sleepy. And but I still have lots of stories to write about that. I never run out of them. But I also have been writing other things. And sometimes, just as a writer, you want to flex your muscles. You just get caught by another idea. And so I started writing, instead of writing from the first person, I started writing sort of like an eagle-eyed view of the village. And the way I've done them so far is sort of one moment seen all through different eyes in the village at a different point of the day. Like sometimes it's sunrise or sunset, or the one that came out just recently, it's a song that gets passed through different people's experience through the day. And you just get sort of a glimpse. It's that sort of Sonder idea, of seeing a stranger through a window and realizing, oh, they have their own, they're the main character of their life, just
Mm-hmm.
like I'm the main character of mine. And I think they're also just a little bit less pointedly sweet and optimistic and maybe a little bit more observational. But for me, that kind of made them their own kind of tender. And and it does feel a little vulnerable. And I'm so glad that they're mostly received well. Just yesterday, someone told me they were going to unsubscribe because if I was going to keep writing that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that is the nature of being a creator. It's not going to be everybody's cup of sleepy time tea. So, but it felt sort of inevitable for me that, I write a lot and I want to be able to write in a way that keeps me inspired. I think it's going to give the best quality experience to my listeners. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm actually writing one this week, so I'm really
Oh,
enjoying it.
super fun. And
I've
thank you
been
for
calling them prose poetry, if that would
that's
explain to people.
amazing. I love
Yes,
it. Yeah,
prose poetry.
that's a great description. Um, and I think I think when a creator chooses to take a departure from something or to move into something new, that it can very often be disruptive for the people who want, more of the same. And how brave to just wish that person well and keep doing your thing.
It's still, it's a vulnerable thing still. I'm still a human who still
Mm,
gets her fifis hurt sometimes.
yeah.
But, I feel like the thing that's made me successful to this point as a writer is honoring what speaks to me. I really, in the end, am writing intuitively from a place in me about what feels right to me.
Yeah.
And so I can't write for somebody else. It would lose that genuine quality. So whether people like it or not, I just have to write it the way I have to write it.
Hmm. Well, and then sometimes you get this incredible serendipity of, like, for example, the wind phone episode that just
Mm-hmm.
came out. This will actually drop in June, but we're recording it in May.
Mm-hmm.
And that what was so like, I just think about in my life, in your life, like the thing, we're the main characters of our own story, kind of things, as everyone is. And the way that wind phones were introduced to me was just a week ago
Mm-hmm.
today, a very dear colleague's husband passed away.
Mm.
And I happened to be in a conversation with other colleagues, with others of our colleagues about, it started to really be about grief. And I can remember it was not supposed to be about that at all. It was supposed to be a completely different thing. And I remember being like, okay, you guys, I can't sit here. I need to be moving. Like I just, when something like that happens for me, I need to be moving.
Move it through your body. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I ended up, we live, in a very rural part of Maine. And I wasn't sure, we haven't lived here that long. I wasn't sure if like cell service would work or whatever. And I said, if I lose you, I lose you, but I'm going to try and take you on a run up to the mailbox. And, um, and it worked. And somewhere in there, I could listen to them. I could be moving myself and I could be hearing about this incredible thing, the wind phones. And then to have that come back in that little harmony kind of way,
Yeah.
4 nights later or 5 nights later was just like, what are we doing? And um, so fun. And it's there's an expansive feel to it. And I wanted to touch back with that thought on something that you had said before, which is like the beauty of what you do is it's very inclusive. And it's inclusive in so many ways that are lovely and comforting. And I'm going to say, how can I say this? Just brave, I think, is maybe what I'll say. But that's not what I'm thinking about while I'm listening. I'm just thinking, oh, thank goodness. You don't have to be straight. You can be non-binary, you can be gay, you can be whatever you are naturally.
Yes.
And that is wonderful. So can you speak to that a little bit, what it's been like to
Yeah.
create that?
That was always very deliberate. I'm a queer woman myself, and I know the value of having a queer space where I feel safe. And if you didn't grow up that way, you might not know what it is like to just walk into every place you ever go into and have to look around and go, am I safe here?
Hmm.
Do I need to modulate the way that I speak? Do I need to change the way that I look for my own safety? Do I need to drop the hand of the person I love as I walk down the road so that nothing bad happens to us? But that is the reality, of our experience. And I remember watching Schitt's Creek
I
years
love that
ago.
show.
I
Yep.
do too. And they so bravely just wrote a world where homophobia just didn't exist.
Yep.
It just never was.
Yep. Yep.
And which is like such a lovely way to write something into being. They're modeling. This is what it would look like if everybody just felt safe.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, it can be that easy. So I'm going to do that too. And I remember I've been writing this like 1940s lesbian detective novel for years. And I called my brother one morning to ask him. My brother was an English professor for years. And I said, can I write a book set in like an alternate universe? And he said, babe, every book's set in an alternate universe. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is my Mr. Rogers neighborhood. And
Yeah.
I'm going to decide the rules of it. And in my version of it, everybody's welcome, everybody exists, everybody's safe, everybody has access. Sometimes people have said that the stories are kind of elitist because they don't acknowledge things like poverty, but they are bedtime stories, for goodness sakes. I'm not going to write about people going hungry.
Yeah.
But it is definitely an idealized place. People have access. They have schools. They have a little village they could walk around in. Most of us dream of that. Everybody has the things they need. But it is also, I'm just trying to kind of very gently plant the seed that a lot of people respond to, which is, wouldn't it be great
Yeah. Yeah.
if we worked for this kind of world?
I think what comes up for me immediately is it doesn't, we have all been through some stuff, right? And to marinate in that is not what we would choose, but sometimes it's what happens inside of us, right? And the universe that you've created is an invitation to, because you know perfectly well that things have happened to Chef, things have happened to
Oh, for sure.
right? Things have happened to
Yeah.
these folks. Um, and well, I guess a place where I am in my life is I don't have to, if they wanted to share about those things, I'm on board. But if they don't, I'm happy to have them be able to express themselves however works for them, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And I totally see what you're saying. It's kind of, like I feel like I haven't gotten through an interview in the last 4 months without talking about heated rivalry, but because it is a queer love story where nobody goes insane or
Mm,
has a drug problem or dies or gets arrested. It's just people falling in love, learning to better communicate, and driving off into the sunset. Because most queer people don't get those stories. We only get the hardship stories. And we need the normal ones too.
yeah.
So, when I had a meetup in New York, we had a meetup of villagers on the steps of the New York Public Library. People just came out and it was so fun. And people asked me about Chef because I think Chef resonates for a lot of folks and
Mm,
how, like, is Chef going to fall in love with somebody? Is Chef like in love with because there have been some like hints in the past that maybe Chef's got a crush here or there. And I said, listen, everybody's in love with Chef. And I just thought, I just want you to know, like the non-binary person in this story, the queer person in this story, everyone in town's in love with them.
hmm.
They're not the odd person out. They are the adventurer who travels to the chalet in the wintertime and probably has broken a few hearts and, like you said, has been through some stuff, but is living a successful, wonderful life. Because I
Yeah.
want my listeners to know that and see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're mostly asleep, but I'm still going to write it that way.
Well, we do get to hear about these folks again
Yes.
in stories from the village of Nothing Much.
Hmm.
Um, I was just, what was the question? Well, I'm sure it'll come back up if it's, if it's top of mind again, because can we talk a little bit about stories from the village of Nothing Much?
Sure.
Um, how did that show come up for you?
A lot of people said, I love these stories so much, I wish I could actually hear them. You have trained my brain so well. I haven't heard more than 30 seconds of a story in 6 months. And even when I try to listen during the day, sometimes I sort of space out. And I didn't want anyone to crash their car. So I thought, and on the other side of it, people said, well, I need them actually more for anxiety, or more for, just feeling grounded and calm than I do for insomnia. And I thought, right on, let's make a day version of this. Let's make a version where we can listen. It's less soporific and dreamy. A lot of people have also asked for like, can there be soundscapes? And I've never like broken the original format just because I felt like it was too reliably efficient. It worked too well for me to
Mm,
all of a sudden throw bird sounds in or something,
mm,
but that's what we get to kind of break some of the rules that I made on Stories from the Village. So I always tell three stories. Well, the first day of the month we go on a walking tour, which is super fun
yes.
because people always say I wish I could visit the village of Nothing Much, and I thought, what if you could? Let me just take you on an imaginary walking tour. You could go out for a walk or whatever, and I'll just walk you through this experience. And so many people have told me too that it's such lovely company that it feels like being out with a friend and just chit-chatting and having a normal interaction, which in our day, these days, these times can be really healing. So that's been fun. Bob puts in a really great soundscape. It's just a hoot. And then in the other episodes, I read three different stories. They're usually based around a theme or something. And then I take a little time at the end to yammer and just talk about like, what was I thinking when I wrote this? What's my experience? Did this come from my life? And that's been really fun because it's there. The rules around Nothing Much Happens are very strict.
Hmm.
They have to be so that people will sleep. But I get to kind of play around in Stories from the Village of Nothing Much, and I think you get to see a little bit more of my personality,
Yeah.
which is fun.
Yeah, and that did bring up the other question that I was having
Mm.
because you have also been through some things in your life
Hmm.
and the ability to hear about those I'm sure it's been incredibly vulnerable and it's so heartening. It's so heartening. And I wondered if there was one specific one that I wondered if we could talk about a little bit.
Sure.
And that is eating disorders.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Are you open to sharing sort of some anyway of your
Yeah,
experience of coming through that?
sure. I am well into recovery now. I'm 7 years into recovery and feeling very secure. It never goes away completely. But
Yeah.
I feel like I don't do any of the behaviors. I still have some of the thoughts, but I don't do any of the behaviors. And I have my therapist, and I know what to do when I need to. Thank you. So, I struggled with mostly anorexia, but also orthorexia from the time I was probably 18 years old, until I came into recovery in 2019. I was 39. So it stole so many years of my life and so much of my energy. And I think about how much time I spent thinking about the shape of my body over the years and all that I've been able to create since I stopped.
Mm,
Whole books came out of me, and I think it is a vulnerable thing, but I feel such passion and frankly rage at what is taken from people because of our fixation with idealized bodies and
yeah.
Western beauty standards, that rage feeds me to never give up, to talk about it openly, and to be a voice for people. And I have frequently, you might have even heard me say it. Sometimes I say it in Stories from the Village. People will say, please don't write about food. I'm trying to go to bed and I don't want to eat before bed because blah, blah, blah. They have this idea they're not supposed to eat after 5 o'clock, or it makes me hungry. And I will always be the voice that says, my dear, if you are hungry, please eat. Please eat. There's a simple solution to that. And I'm never going to stop being that voice. So, and I feel like I also coming up through the world of yoga and like the wellness culture of the early aughts, a lot of it was really unhealthy and a lot of it was really extreme. And I don't think there was a way I could have come through without developing a pretty intense disorder.
Mm,
And I also taught for all those years. And I didn't teach eating disorder, but I was an example. People saw me, they
yeah.
heard me. And I feel like I have some dues to repay to my students, to show healing and to show what that looks like and recovery. So it definitely built me into a really strong, resilient person. But I'm angry and I don't want other people to have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a feeling I know well for other reasons, but
Yeah.
it's a feeling I know well. And I think it's interesting too. When I first connected, or when I first wrote to invite, coming on my show,
Hmm.
uh, one of the things that I shared was you did an episode of First This, which is the mindfulness meditation podcast. Um, and I let you say this too. That will always be, there will never be ads. It's always going to be out there as a place where people can get the kind of,
Yeah.
grow these skills, or feel the comfort, and it is all of that to me. So thank you.
Yeah.
There was an episode. So um, I was driving to my physical therapist back. This must have been in 2023. Um, And I was listening to, sometimes I will listen to these in the car. Sometimes I listen to
Hmm.
my first this in the
Yeah.
car. It's a great way. I'm just me, right? Like, and I usually have 10
Yeah.
minutes. So, and this was about, it was about intuition, like practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so for context, the people, longtime listeners, because this show has been around for 11 years. We had our 11th
Mm.
birthday last week. And,
Wow.
um, I didn't used to, my name wasn't Kay. I had a different name. And one of the things that came up in that intuition practice, uh,
I
one
know
of
what
the
you're going to
ways that you
say.
meant, right? Yeah. One of the ways that you invite practicing saying what is true, because it's really about like connecting with what is true after years or layers of being told what is not true, and coming to sort of like, now it's hard to tell, is this
Yeah.
true for me or not, right?
And
So
feeling that in your body. Like, what does that physically
what is
feel
that?
like when you speak the truth?
Yes, yes. And it was such a wild feeling of, because 2023, I was just starting to really own K.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like in the car and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know if I can say it. Like, can I say it? Is it true? How true is it? And
Wow.
it's been such a beautiful thing to come back to it as a practice. And that was something that was really influential, um, in helping me be me, helping me really feel like myself, and return to that. And yeah, I think I wanted to share that story because it's such a formative story for me, but I also don't want to turn this into sort of a remember that time when, you know what I mean? Like a,
No, but that's so meaningful. And it honestly speaks to us so many things that we've said, which is to kind of trust your instinct and say the thing because you
mm,
never know who's listening and how they could connect to it. And when we doubt ourselves as artists or creators, we're editing ourselves, we're holding ourselves back, but there might be someone out there who desperately needs the thing that you are going to create. And you don't know
mm,
them and you might never meet them, but that doesn't mean that you don't build it and send it out into the world. So thank you so much for sharing that with me, Kay. I'm so glad you had that moment. You know, there's this line from a Regina Spektor song where she says, if you don't ever tell anyone your name, they can never call you by it.
mm,
And I think about that a lot, that that is, you know, for those of us who sometimes have to say, actually, the person that I, I'm peeling another layer and here I am,
yeah,
and meet me again, that's vulnerable. And to be able to show up in the world, but it means that we get to get seen that way and
yeah,
recognized. And we need that for us, a feeling of wholeness
yeah.
and to feel really safe in our relationships and connections. So I just want to say, like, that's a big deal. And I'm so glad you were able to speak your truth.
Thank you. I think I would be curious about this for you too. For me, um, when I perhaps gave myself permission,
Hmm.
I started to feel at first there was a real discombobulation around me of the people who love me and have always known me as, you
Yeah.
know, as that person. And to feel an embracing of this me,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, that is just priceless.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And I so understand that, you know, because I feel like when you come out, whatever you're coming out of, you are afraid to lose love. You're afraid to lose friendship or family. But of course, that's not love if they don't know you. You
Yeah.
already lost the thing. You already don't have the thing. You are so worried you're going to lose. So, really, it's only possible to get better because you don't have it right now. They can't love you unless they know you. So, yes, I totally have been through those moments.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, our time is short. It's incredible how quickly this has gone. Um, I think there's time for just a couple more curiosities.
Sure.
Um, is there what is top of mind or some favorite excitements perhaps that you have about the new book?
Oh
About
boy. I love the other voice actors. It was so exciting and kind of scary to share. I've only ever been the only voice that anyone has heard in the Village of Nothing Much, with very few exceptions. And you know, this is 9 characters. I play the innkeeper,
oh
but
wow.
yeah, I know, which I was really excited to do. But you know, we have some really amazing voices in there. There's Mara Wilson, who,
Mm,
if you're like a Gen Xer like me, she was our Matilda. We like grew up with her, you know. There's people from Broadway. There's this British actor, Cabina Holdbrook-Smith, who is like a voice hero of mine. I've always been somebody who listens for voices and to sort of feel the emotion under voices. As a yoga teacher too, it's a big tool in your kit, you know, how you use your voice. So
mhm.
he was somebody that from the beginning I was like, I wonder if we could get Cabina. And then we're like, Cabina said yes. And then to hear like my words in this voice that I know and admire so much, you know, that was amazing to me. And when I heard it, I just sobbed. I put
Wow.
it on. They sent me the, you know, and I just cried through it. And I was like, they made it so much better than m I thought it could be with my words. Like they brought so much to it.
Wow.
And, you know, it's this lovely story, you know, about it takes place over 3 days, 9 villagers, and the way that their lives touch one another.
Mm,
And I wanted it to feel like if you turned over the tapestry and just saw where the thread was connected, that sometimes you don't see it. But what if we looked directly at those connections to remind ourselves about the value of friends and community. And it's also a lot of fun. There's silliness in it. I get to write. I have, you know, humor is a big part of my life, but it's not a part of Nothing Much Happens unless I do it very quietly with a pun.
mm.
So, you know, it was fun to like write some silly dialogue and write jokes into it.
Wow.
I just and I think people will love to like dive deeper into, you know, what's the story of the woman who owns the bookshop and what's
Mhm.
her house look like and what is her secret passion and you know, so I think for a lot of people it will be a kind of healing fiction, a way to just be in the world that feels calm and connected. There's no car crashes, there's no twists.
Hmm.
It's just conflict free, soft fiction. I always say it's like, you've probably heard me say it a million times, like easy listening, but for fiction.
But for fiction. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, wow. How special to hear your words that you wrote, you
Mind
know.
blowing.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I appreciate you sharing that vulnerability of like, I can't even imagine this. What if we don't like it or something like that? What if, right?
That's the thing is like, and oh, I I have listeners now who are heroes to me, like literary heroes. Um, there's a writer who I read one of her books maybe 12 years ago, and it spoke to me so intensely. I was like, oh my God, this is exactly the kind of writing that I love so much. And then one day she followed me, and I wasn't even happy about it. I was like, you can't follow me. And I just got to have dinner with her when I was in New York.
Oh,
And to
wow.
know like she has her own favorite stories in the village and wanted to ask. And I'm like, it is just gobsmacking, but also affirming. Like, nobody can talk us down like ourselves, but
Yeah.
others don't see us that way. And so to be able to just glimpse yourself for a moment through somebody else's eyes and go, oh, talented, successful, confident, knows what she's doing. Yeah, I'll put that suit on.
Wow. Well, what feels present for you, I think, in this
Mm.
moment as we're wrapping up?
I'm feel like I'm always aware of the physical sensations in my body. Thank you, 25 years of yoga teaching. So I am always feeling my body. I'm always feeling just sort of the greater awareness of the weight of the world, but also the joy of my dog sitting next to me,
Mm.
the chance to talk with you and feel connected to the web of listeners out there. I have my moonbird in my hand, so I'm breathing. I feel like the present for me is a really good place. And I think a lot of us who are sensitive, empathic people struggle to feel okay feeling good right now. But
Mm.
I just want to remind anyone, that there's not a soul on the planet that benefits from you denying yourself joy. That doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't help anyone. It only leads to your own burnout. That joy makes us resilient. So even if it feels, because two things can be true, it can be a discouraging time to be a human who cares. There's still a lot of good things happening, and we have to keep showing them to each other so that we can keep taking steps to get to the next day. First this and then that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. That is
My pleasure.
what a lovely the feeling in my body is like, ah.
I
Yeah.
can feel it too. A little effervescent and then a
Yep. Yep. Yep.
yep, we'll keep
Well,
going.
we'll keep going, exactly. And
Hmm.
and to feel that connection, that also feels really, really special. So thank you for
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Kay.
Well, friends, uh, what a wonderful hour we've gotten to spend with Kathryn Nicolai. If you would like to hear more from her, you can find Nothing Much Happens, First This, Stories from the Village of Nothing Much in your favorite podcast app, or go to nothingmuchhappens.com, which just as a human to navigate a website, I just wanted to say thank you for making such a beautiful navigable website. That's awesome.
Thank you. It was a priority. I will pass it along to the member of the team who works on that. But I was like, listen, it has to be beautiful. It has to feel soft.
Yeah, yeah, and I think intuitive too.
Yes, for
There's a real
sure.
intuitiveness to it. So that's where you can find more about Kathryn. You can be listening along as I will when the new book comes out. And I'm just glad and grateful to be in this beautiful world uh, with all of us together listening. So
Amen to
uh,
that. Thanks so much, Kay, for having me. It was a great conversation.
yeah, you're welcome. We'll see y'all next time. And Kathryn, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.